plans from the previous Christmas window after changes to the rules over the weekend. The weather: rain for most this morning, clearing across central and southern areas, colder across Scotland with further showers in the north and west, a high of 15 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm Joanne Webb. The M20 remains closed eastbound between junctions 8 at Leeds Castle and 11 at Hythe. It's because of Operation Stack, which means the lorries are being parked up on the M20, whilst the Channel Tunnel and the Port of Dover are closed. Long delays on the A13 westbound, delays of at least half an hour to the North Circular Road junction, and that's as those emergency repair works are still taking place. Very busy on Clapham High Street northbound following an accident, and delays on the A3 southbound to Wisley. That's the M25 junction, and that's because of an accident on the entry slip road.
This is LBC. Call Nick Ferrari now. 0345 6060 973. This is LBC. Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC with Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
8 minutes before 8 now. While we're obviously looking at some of the aspects of you not being able to be with your family now with the new Tier 4, what are the financial impact if you'd book rail tickets, or in some instances fairly expensive rail tickets? Let's put that to Transport Secretary Grant Shapps, who joins me now. Good morning, Secretary of State. What happens then to my listeners? Can they get their money back? Morning to you.
Morning, Nick. Yes, actually is the answer. I haven't announced it anywhere else. You're asking me the right question this morning.
Well, that's it finally happened this year. It got to December, whatever we are. I've finally got a right question.
I've yet to send out the tweet, but I am organising for people to be able to get those tickets refunded in cash, so they're not out of pocket. Because after all, we did hope and say that people would have the opportunity to travel during the Christmas bubble. So to be clear, these are tickets booked from the 23rd to the 27th. That's the period during which you were going to be able to travel. And they'd need to be booked after the 24th of November, when we said that was going to be the case. So yes is the answer,
okay.
And thanks for asking me the question no one else has asked me.
Okay, Secretary of State, there's no ceiling on that then? If I book tickets to wherever, I don't know, Northumberland, whatever, I get my money back?
That's right. It's during that period and after.
But obviously, any
time.
bookings after the Prime Minister's announcement on Saturday, they do not qualify.
That's right. Okay. After he announced it, and I should say that's on coaches as well as on trains.
Do we have any idea what sort of money this might cost?
Well, I don't know the exact figure, because the train companies will have taken those bookings separately. I think it's very important, having guided people, that they'd be able to travel during that time to make sure that people aren't out of pocket. So I think it's the right and decent thing to do. And of course, I hope that the train system will be able to take their business some other time when we're able to all travel again.
And lastly on this, how do people do it? Is there a website, or do they just go to the ticket supplier? How does it work, Secretary of State?
They go to the usual, there's often a sort of reclaim area. Well, there's always a reclaim area on the train operating company's website. So if you were on, Avanti West Coast or LNER on the East Coast or wherever, you just go to that website, and that's where you'll be able to claim the refund, and we'll be putting details up later today on that.
Okay. Having asked a right question, let's ask some wrong questions. Here we go. What do you understand to be the situation at Dover?
Oh, look, there's going to be significant disruption at Dover because it's closed. So, of course, passengers in any case shouldn't be travelling because people should be staying at home if you're in Tier 4, literally staying at home if you're in Tier 3 and below, staying very local. So you shouldn't be travelling anyway. The bigger issue, of course, with France is that they've also included the hauliers in that and gone further than other countries with that regard. And they said they'll review it in 48 hours. That means that the hauliers aren't able to cross. So what you'd see is a long line of mostly European lorries because British truck drivers will not have gone and joined that queue hearing the news. And they're waiting to cross back into Europe. And that's what you'll see there right now.
Are people coming into Dover from France?
A very limited number of people are coming in, returning home, for example, on Eurotunnel. But by and large, the crossing is closed. And as I say, it's closed to people, but we're also advising people not to travel. So that's really in both directions.
Are continental hauliers being allowed into the country through Dover, Secretary of State?
We're not stopping them. But this is what's known as a closed loop, and the short straits, that's the Dover-Calais, either the ferry or the Eurotunnel, is a loop which goes round and round. And so obviously hauliers will want to know they're able to return if they come over here. But listen, there's a very strong incentive for this to be resolved. I spoke to my French opposite number, Jean-Baptiste Devarget, last night, because actually, it's primarily French and European goods coming across. So it disadvantages them to have both the disruption and, of course, not to be able to sell their goods. So they want to see it resolved, and I'm due to speak to him later this morning as well, and to try to find a solution.
Is this a portent of things to come in a week or so's time with Brexit, Secretary of State?
Well, there's no sense that the borders will ever be closed in that situation, but it actually has had one small. All the planning for the end of this transition period has actually had one small benefit for what's happened here, which is that we're actually prepared. For example, we're opening up Manston as a lorry park. Manston Airport as a lorry park today in order to ensure we can look after the welfare of the hauliers, the lorry drivers. We've got very advanced plans with people, including the Kent Resilience Forum. That's a body who've spent years planning for what happens post the end of the transition period, post Brexit, if you like. So actually, a lot of those plans are very helpful in dealing with everyday disruption, this sort of thing. Which, by the way, this is not particularly unusual on this crossing. We've seen strikes go on for weeks before. Most consumers wouldn't have noticed at all. My ferry went on strike several years ago. We've had strikes at Calais much more recently. Most people don't notice when these things happen outside of the context of this terrible virus, of course.
And on the subject of the virus, will this in any way delay the import of vaccine?
It won't, no. First of all, we've already got stocks here till the new year. And secondly, the majority of all of that actually comes from containers. So what isn't coming into the country is what's called the RoRo, the roll-on, roll-off. That's the accompanied hauliers. But containers can still come in. I can put that into proportion for you. It's probably around 20% of imports. The rest actually comes through sealed containers, and those can carry on flowing, and that's actually how the vaccine primarily will be shipped in any case.
While I have the benefit on your line, just a couple of other matters. This new strain of the virus, is it correct that it was first identified in Kent in October?
Yes, so it's a particularly virulent variant of the virus, as you know, and we know about it because this country does more genome sequencing of this virus than any other country in the world. I think we've done 45% of the entire world sequencing of this virus, and that's meant that we've been able to identify mutations and changes faster than other people. There've been thousands of them. It's not right. Unusual these viruses change. This particular one was identified. I don't know the technical answer to your question as precisely when. What I do know is that the moment that the experts, the scientists came to us, which was this Friday, and said, actually, we've got a problem. We've now crunched the data. We've looked at the evidence closely. At the moment that happened, we met on Saturday and took the decisions very, very quickly to ensure. In fact, we met Friday night, I should say, and then took the decision on Saturday. Right. And acted very quickly against it.
I mean, I have a note here that it was first identified, as I say, in Kent in October, but it was on the 19th of December, 3 days having said that we will have Christmas, that the Prime Minister effectively cancelled family Christmas for much of England.
Well, look, I don't know about you, Nick, but I think when the facts change, when scientists come to you and say, we have now done the sequencing, we now understand the impact, here it is, you're a fool if you don't respond to that.
Indeed, but what were the scientists doing between October and December the 19th?
Well, as I say...
How long does it take?
Well, exactly that time, I guess, in fairness to the scientists. I'm not one myself.
It takes 2.5 months to realise this. And there was no warning signs for the Prime Minister. You might not want to talk about 5 days of Christmas. You might not want to talk about Christmas on Wednesday because we're hearing bad signs out of Kent in October.
Yeah, I was going to say, in fairness to the scientists, there have been thousands of mutations of this virus. Had they have done that every single time, you can imagine the impact. So you've got to actually respond to the actual data as they see it coming in. And I have to say, I think our scientists have responded brilliantly to the coronavirus. We put more money than I think any other country in the world to the international effort to find vaccines. We've developed a vaccine which we're all hoping will get approval, which will have 100 million doses of the Oxford AstraZeneca as and when that is approved. And all of this work would not be possible if it weren't for the scientists. And as I mentioned, we do a large chunk of the entire world's sequencing of this virus, which means that scientists around the world are able to learn from it. And I should also say, Nick, we're only having this conversation because that work was done by the scientists. Other countries, including countries in Europe, already have this variant. They're either just not fully aware of it yet, or haven't quite taken in the transmissibility of it, which is up to 70% more transmissible than the previous variant that we were dealing with.
Last couple of questions. There is a suggestion this new Tier 4 could be in place for up to 2 months, and that parts of the United Kingdom could be moved up the tiers as well. Parts of England, sorry, you have to speak for England. How correct is that, Secretary of State? Well,
I think anyone who's been dealing with coronavirus this whole year will know that it's a difficult virus to predict. The good piece of news is that the vaccine, there's every sign the vaccine works on this new variant. What I can't say absolutely is precisely what will happen to tiers in the future, not least because it's in the hands of your listeners, quite literally the hands, space of your listeners. There's only one way that this virus spreads. It's when human beings get too close together. And this new variant, if I tell you, some friends of mine had a wedding, small, restricted, 15 people, a couple of weeks ago. One person was tested afterwards, was positive. They've now tested everyone else, and all but 2 of the results are back. 11 people have the virus. 11 people at that wedding, and there's still 2 results to come back. Well, this new variant is very transmissible, and it's in our hands. Like, if we keep space, if you stay home, if you don't meet other people, there is 0 chance of you spreading it to somebody else, and 0 chance of you getting it in your own home. So we just need to follow these rules, and we need to get the vaccine, which, by the way, 500,000 jabs, jabs in people's arms by the end of this weekend. So, we're getting there with that. We've just got to hold on and get the job done.
I wish your friends a speedy recovery, but to that,
I think that the strange thing is also they're all well. All of them.
That's good.
But none of them would have even known without the tests.
Goodness. Gosh, so then they carry on spreading. Does that not speak to whether we can open the schools next month, Secretary of State? Surely we have to consider that we don't open them as early as was planned.
Well, as you know, the Education Secretary said that there'll be a bit of a sort of paced return over that first week, and with massive amounts of testing. I think what it really speaks to is testing is the solution. Again, we've got more testing available here than anywhere else, I think, per capita, possibly in the world, certainly in Europe. And so we're going to use those lateral flow tests to make sure that students are tested. I know my kids, my twins, who'll be looking forward to going back to school in January, they'll be tested before they go back, along with all other school children.
So I think that's the important thing to do. In all honesty, children don't normally look forward to going back to school. But just lastly,
I think that they've actually, finally, it's an interesting social experiment. They've actually reached the point where
they don't want to be with Dad.
They actually do want to go back.
I don't want Dad in the study talking to all these reporters. Lastly, as Transport Secretary, you'll be able to tell me this. Extra police, I understand, have been deployed to railway stations to stop non-essential journeys. What is an essential journey?
Essential journey is a journey where you have to go to work because you can't do that work from home. That's probably manufacturing, construction, and that sort of thing. It's an emergency. It's medical. Those are your essential journeys. It's if you're a key worker, a care worker.
So visiting a grieving parent or something like that is deemed essential.
Each individual has to work out.
Well, hang on. Visiting a grieving parent is an essential journey, is it not?
Yeah, my father's in hospital seriously ill right now.
I'm so sorry. I wouldn't have pushed so hard. No, I do apologise.
If something happened, then of course
you have to go. Yes.
People understand these rules because actually we've had them in place before with the earlier lockdowns, and actually the good news is I know there were some scenes Saturday evening of what looked like pretty busy railway stations, but we had them very, very closely monitored through the weekend, and yesterday there was no overcrowding at all anywhere.
All right. Well, look, I'm so sorry about your dad. I do wish him a recovery, and I wish you as happy a Christmas as you can. Thanks for all your help. I won't speak to you again, I imagine, before the year. So thanks for all your help through the course of this year, and good luck to Dad. Transport Secretary Grant Shapps appearing here on LBC 6 after 8 News. Holly Jones.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 8 o'clock, Boris Johnson will hold emergency talks with ministers later after France banned lorries carrying freight from the UK and countries around the world ended flights. It's over fears of a new strain of coronavirus, which health experts say isn't believed to be more dangerous